Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. You are listening to Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and the entire world from the lovely book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, an absolute gem of the city of Boston. We are absolutely thrilled that you are with us. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. In every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imagination. Want to help us grow this mission? Then tell all of your family and friends about the show and let them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show for you today. First up, Alex Friedrichs is here to celebrate Sweet Rescue. And later in the show, we'll be taking a listen back to a conversation we had with American Idol finalist Christina Christian. She is here to tell us all about I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you? This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by When Fred the Snake and Friends Go to the Beach, written by Dr. Peter Cotton. What if your next beach day turned into the adventure of a lifetime? And when Fred the Snake and Friends go to the beach, Fred and his friends are headed to the beautiful sea islands off the coast of South Carolina, where the sun is shining, the waves are rolling, and there's a whole world waiting to be explored. From sandy shores to ocean discoveries, Fred and his pals dive into the day with laughter, curiosity, and friendship. Whether they're exploring the coastline, meeting new sea creatures, or simply enjoying time together, every moment is a reminder that the best adventures are the ones we share. This is the fifth book in the beloved Fred the Snake series, where each story brings new places, new friends, and new opportunities to learn and grow. Written by Dr. Peter Cotton, renowned physician, teacher, and now gifted storyteller for children, these books continue to delight families with their warmth, imagination, and heart. So grab your towel, bring your imagination, and join Fred for a seaside adventure your families will treasure. Because with Fred the Snake, real magic happens when we choose kindness and become a friend. Joining us right now from beautiful California, our guest is here today to celebrate his new picture book. It's called Sweet Rescue. Please welcome to the show, Alex Friedrichs. Alex, how are you?
Jed, I am extremely blessed, and I am so thankful for the opportunity to be on your show today.
Happy to have you on. Alex I'm looking into I guess this is your man cave, because we got Ducks, autographed Ducks jersey on the wall. We get sticks. We have hockey gloves. We have a pair of skates, some pennants. This your own little cave and place of solitude?
Actually, this is my computer room, and believe it or not, I actually share it with my wife, who's a paralegal. So
okay.
She has to accept the environment. Graciously does, by the way.
Well, that's good. I'm taking she doesn't use your laptop and with that backdrop when she's doing her paralegal work.
No, absolutely not. But she's a great sport, and she actually loves hockey too. So she loves going to the games.
Hockey is an awful lot of fun. I was telling Alex beforehand, my niece fell in love with hockey when she was in middle school. I live in the city of Boston, and I wanted to bring her to a Bruins game. And so I did some research online. I goes, wow, kid, I love you, but I can't afford to love you that much. But what I did is I live about 40 minutes from Providence, home of the Baby Bees, the minor league team. And I found out that a ticket to the Boston Bruins is the same price as 2 season tickets to the Baby Bees. And so that's what we did that year. We went, we did free skating and we went to the Baby Bees, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time.
That's a great decision.
Yeah, yeah. And the scary thing is with the traffic here in Boston, Alex, It took me the same amount of time to drive to Providence as it did to drive into Boston Garden.
My goodness.
So let's talk about Sweet Rescue. This sounds like a fun book.
You know what? It is an absolute blast. So I'm a teacher. I teach third grade, and I've been fortunate enough to teach this is my 31st year. And a couple of years ago, one of my former students approached me. He had made a music video, and he had made like a short little feature film. And so his agent was approached by Amazon Studios. They were casting for a new, I guess it's a new, it was a new series for kids, and it was called Play-Doh Squished. And it was hosted and produced by Modern Family's Sarah Hyland.
Uh-huh.
And so we put together a team, myself and two former students and another teacher, and we passed all the auditions. We got to go on and compete in this competition, and it was just so fun. It was a 2-day shoot where we had to come up with a story. And the whole problem was, like, what do you think about? Like, there's millions of stories, and you have to build this story using Play-Doh. So all of us were just racking our minds, what in the world are we going to think of? Well, here's where Sweet Rescue came in. One night, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning from a dream, woke my wife up, and I said, I know the story. And so we both got up, poured some coffee. I wrote out all of the ideas from the story, and it was Sweet Rescue. So we went on the show, and we built the storyboard. The kids told all about what has happened through the beginning, the middle, and the end process. And the judges were just blown away. They loved it. They said, oh my gosh, this sounds like a movie. And I'm not going to ruin the ending, give away any secrets or anything if people want to watch it. It's a great little show for families. It's on Amazon Freevee. But after the show, I thought, I need to write a children's book about this. So for the next couple of years, I just proceeded to write down some ideas, write down some pages, and then I met one of my colleagues at work. I had no idea he was an artist, and I told him my idea, and I asked him if he would be willing to do the illustrations, and he said, yeah, sure. And so we got together, and it took not quite a year to put the book together, and it just all came to fruition. I'm a very spiritual man, and so I asked my superintendent if she knew somebody that had been published before, because it's really hard to get published. And she said, you know what's crazy is I have a colleague, a superintendent, that just was published. Let me reach out to him. And now, superintendent is in charge of so many schools and so busy. Well, this is where I think God had a hand in this, is because that superintendent took 45 minutes out of his day on his drive home to talk to me about his journey. And he was so kind and helpful. Well, he reached out to his publisher. And within 2 weeks, I was asked to send the manuscript. And I heard back, said they were very interested. And that's kind of how the book was published.
That's fantastic. I love that. What a great story.
Very, very blessed.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead.
Sorry.
Who are we going to meet in Sweet Rescue?
So the main character is Hungry Joe. And Hungry Joe is this little caterpillar that wakes up one day and he's just starving. Obviously, he has to feed his little self because he's going to go through his metamorphosis someday. So he wakes up and he gets smacked in the nose by this delicious smell. And he is on this journey to find whatever the smell was. And on his way, he meets some little friends of his, some ants and some bees. Everybody says hi. He doesn't have any time for them because he's just so hungry. He actually ends up finding the smell, but gets stuck in the middle of this delicious ooey gooey pie. So he has to have some help. and he screams, and his sister, his older sister, Becky Butterfly, hears and comes to the rescue.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Boy, there were times in my life I would have really enjoyed being stuck in a pie.
I think he did too until he realized he can't get out.
Yeah.
And then the villain comes in, which is this raven that's perched upon a tree overhead, and he's looking for a delicious little morning snack as well.
Uh-huh.
So Becky has to round up all the friends in the park and do a rescue plan to rescue Joe.
Love, it sounds like it's a great book to talk to kids about teamwork and getting together and working together.
Yes, and being that I'm a teacher, at the beginning of the year, it's always very important to let the kids know that teamwork makes everything work better.
Yeah.
And so this book has a little bit of everything in it. I've read thousands and thousands of books over my career, and I've taken away bits and pieces of some of the stories that I've liked, and I've kind of incorporated them in this book to where it really tells a message. It has several messages. One about teamwork, but also about family. And then it has some other lessons that the main character learns too.
Good stuff. Those conversations that we have with our kids about these things, they're so much easier to have when we're talking to our kids about dilemmas that characters in books are facing, as opposed to sitting down and saying, all right, son, all right, daughter, we have to have this very, very important talk.
Yeah. And this one, my favorite message is with Valentine's Day coming up. This is a story about love, about a sister and a brother. And the sister comes to the aid that no matter what, she's going to have his back. She's going to make sure that she takes care of him. But then the other dynamics with the little friends coming together, that, we're going to do everything we can to show love to our friends. And we're going to do, what we can to help them in times of need.
I love that you're able and very willing to use the word love. I did educational magic shows full time for like 35, 40 years. And I remember there was a time when my show was becoming we're doing a lot of anti-bullying stuff. And initially it was like, say no to bullying and but then the more I looked into the issue and the best ways to deal with it, the more I realized that if we encourage our kids to be kind, to be caring, to love one another, then that kind of takes care of the bullying. You see someone being hurt, you're going to stand up for them. You're going to stand up for yourself. You're less likely to hurt others. And I remember having a conversation with a couple of principals saying, hey, is it okay if I use the word love? And they said, how? Like, you love meatballs? You love pizza? And I go, no, kind of like love each other. And they go, nah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. And hopefully, that was a while ago. That was probably 20 years ago. But hopefully our attitude about that is changed.
Well, I'm hoping with this book, the world is so filled with hate and division that really my message was just to let kids open up this story, to read it, and to be filled with love and be kind to one another and have those conversations. So when they read the book again, they have their little favorite characters, or they have like their favorite part of the story, but then the message always comes back to being kind. And maybe that, the villain, the raven, will eventually, maybe sequel number, the sequel coming out, will learn to do that too.
Yeah. Tell me, as a teacher, third graders, my beautiful wife taught school here in Boston for 34 years, teaching special ed kids. You kind of have your finger on the pulse of kids, and you see what kids are going through. At this time, you were mentioning there's so much hatred, so much division. Forget about politics. We can't even celebrate a halftime, Super Bowl halftime show without getting into big arguments about things. How are you kids dealing with that? Are you seeing that kind of division reflected in your kids, or are they not that divided yet, or are you hopeful that they can overcome it?
No, they see it. They see it through, parents' social media. They see it on the news. We have those conversations weekly about it starts with them. And when we study specific people who have influenced others and have changed the lives of others, it comes back to the kids. It comes back to them being the difference. It starts with them. And I think with me, it's a very important, I tell my parents this, that I have two things that I'm important. I'm supposed to keep your kids safe, and I'm supposed to educate your kids and make them the most well-rounded, educated kids that I can. And I absolutely love what I do. Like, people ask me all the time, you've been teaching for 30 years now. When are you going to retire? Oh, I don't want to retire. Like, I love going to work. And I'm so blessed. And I've had so many wonderful families that I've had the opportunity to teach their kids. And now they're having kids. And it's just so wonderful. But it really, like, the importance that I'm trying to advocate to them is that it starts with them. They're supposed to be kind to people, even if they're not kind in return.
Right.
That they have good, I call them good little hearts.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be kind and love people. And hopefully that will transcend to the person that maybe needs it more.
Yeah. Well, we're hope. Hey, Alex, one of the things that we've talked about here on the podcast, of course, we talk about how beneficial it is for us to read with our kids and all the benefits the kids get. I've learned a lot. When I started the podcast 9 years ago, I just knew that the relationship I have with my now adult kids was built on a foundation of reading. I knew that it kind of helped them get ready to read when they went into school. I had no idea of all the benefits that kids get when you read with them. But one thing I was really surprised to learn was, in most schools these days, kids learn to read from kindergarten to grade 2, and then they have to read to learn starting in 3rd grade. So if your kid's not reading by the time they start 3rd grade, they're in a lot of trouble. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely right about it. And we see that on a yearly basis where kids are coming into 3rd grade. And this is a major problem.
I don't think I bring it up whenever I think of it, because I think it's important for parents to hear that. My kids went through school. It was never expressed to me. Like I said, my wife's a teacher. She never brought it. I don't know if the education system just assumes that we know this and we'll get on board, but boy, it is really important for parents to be supportive of their kids' literacy and becoming literate during those age 5, 6, 7, before they get to that 3rd grade level.
I think nowadays, it's super different than when I first started my career. Nowadays, they started TK and having kids come in at 4 years old, trying to teach them the sounds and the letters before they even hit kindergarten, because the expectation in kindergarten is that they're reading now.
Uh-huh.
And we're doing our best to advance these kids to where you're absolutely correct. In 3rd grade, it's your reading to learn about certain topics. And if you come in and you're just learning how to read, you're falling way behind, and statistics show it's really hard to recover.
Right. As a teacher, and obviously as a caring teacher, do you have the support that you can give to those kids that you're identifying as needing that extra help?
We do. I'm fortunate enough we do, but I don't think we have that support enough, because now you're talking, if somebody's coming in reading at 1st grade level and they're in 3rd grade, they're going to need a lot more than just incremental minutes during the day.
Right.
It's very hard to make up those years of learning loss.
Yeah.
And it's so important for parents to read with kids nightly. And I know parents are busy, and I have grandkids, and I know, my kids are busy and they're working, they come home, they put food on the table, and then they have sports, and then they have to get ready for bed and school the next day. And I always tell them, always make time to sit and read. And kids need to hear parents read, especially the early beginning reading skills, is they need the parents to read to the kids. It's so important.
Yeah.
And so again, this is where, storybooks come into play, especially if they have their favorite storybooks.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I feel I have no hesitation encouraging parents to read with their kids, despite the work, despite running back and forth to sports and ballet and all that other stuff, it's really beneficial for the parents.
Mm.
I remember very clearly having two shows in the Philadelphia area, getting in my car, driving back to Boston, getting here at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and my wife saying, "Excellent, you're here. It's story time." And, I'm exhausted. I'm fighting traffic, going through New York City and all this stuff. And in my mind, the last thing I want to do is sit down and read with my kids because I'm exhausted. But boy, that was just what the doctor ordered, because by the time I finished that 20-minute read aloud session, I was feeling so much. I felt energized and like I'd taken some kind of miracle elixir.
And hopefully people hear that, because it is exhausting at the end of the day. And the last thing you want to do is sit down and do homework or read, because it's just one more thing on people's plates. But you're right. Like, the opportunity to have your child sit and listen to you read, or read together. Being an old man now, I realize those are great memories.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage the young parents. I hear you. I see it just from my kids. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those memories, you will later on, you will cherish those.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that I look back on now, my kids were a little bit diabolical, Alex. I know you'll find that hard to believe, but I had a bit of a speech impediment when I was a kid, and it rears its ugly head every time, especially when I'm tired. And there's certain letters of the alphabet that I stumble over. And my kids figured out that Fox and Socks was a killer for me when I was tired, and that's the book that they would bring out, and I'd be there.
Be careful.
It was a killer. How, as a teacher, someone who has to grab onto third graders' attention, and we know that that's really difficult. How do you read? Do you get the voices and the actions and all that stuff as you're reading to kids? I
love doing the voices, and kids will come back and they will say, nobody reads that story like you do. And ultimately, I would love to end my career in Hollywood doing voiceovers because I really enjoy it. So, like, when Sweet Rescue was getting released, and I was going on my bike, riding my bike every single day, miles and miles a day, and I was practicing each character's voice and how it was supposed to be and how I wanted it read. And it's so important because it just makes that story come alive.
Are you able to share with us one or two characters and what they sound like?
Absolutely. So I'll share with you the main character.
Okay.
So again, he's a hungry little caterpillar, and he has a little catchphrase. So his voice sounds like this. I'm so hungry. And so again, with the villain, Sir Raven, he has kind of that, going back to that diabolical. This juicy, delicious little snack this morning.
I love it. Is Sweet Rescue available as an audiobook yet?
Yes, actually it is. It's on Amazon. It's been for sale on Amazon since September 16th. And it's been wildly successful. For the whole month of February, it was out of stock.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry, December. I'm thinking of February. The whole month of December, it was out of stock. It wasn't available. And right now it's available for Valentine's Day. and we're already thinking ahead for St. Patrick's Day. But really, it's just been such a blessing. I always wanted to just write a book and to see it in the library and have kids read it. And people are sending me pictures of them holding up the book, and my child loves it, or, my granddaughter loves it. The other day I walked through the office at school and 2 kids were reading it, and I came back. I was so humble. It was just so surreal to see it. And I was just so grateful that kids are reading it and they're enjoying it, and they have, that they love the story and they can't wait. What's going to happen next, Mr. Friedrichs? What's going to happen next? When's the next book coming out? It's been an absolute blessing. And Yorkshire, the publishing company, has just been so supportive and so amazing. Everybody that was with that company during the whole process, I'm so grateful to everybody that they were so kind, and it made a dream come true for me.
That's fantastic. Well, when is the next book coming up?
Well, we're working on it.
We're
working on it. And it has something to do with the Raven's revenge.
Ooh, all right. A little teaser there. Hey, Alex, where can we go to find out more about Sweet Rescue and find out more about you?
So I am on Instagram at Mr. Friedrichs, and you can find a little bit more about me through Amazon. It's on sale. It has some bio information there. And Google search me. Like, believe it or not, I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm actually on Google now. Like, it's crazy. I'm very blessed. I live in a small little community here in California, and they just started a local media outreach, and she has this experience. And it was I want to say like maybe 40 minutes interview with me, that was posted on YouTube. And again, talk about surreal and being humble and being grateful. I walked away from that experience thinking, wow, I'm blessed. I'm a blessed man. And really, I've accomplished everything I could with this book. Just the opportunity for kids to read a story that they like and they can relate to, and they want to read it again and again.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Sweet Rescue. It is the new picture book from our guest, Alex Friedrichs. Hey, Alex, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids, and thanks for being a teacher.
Jed, thank you so much. It was an honor.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Ramble Office. Before I tell you about Ramble Office, let me tell you about what travel used to look like for me. When I take the Reading with Your Kids studio on the road, it was like a lot. I had one box for the mixer, another case for microphones, a satchel for my laptop, cables everywhere. And I always felt like I was forgetting something. That's why Ramble Office really clicked with me. Rambo takes everything I used to juggle, tech, gear, personal stuff, and puts it into one smart, great-looking unit that's designed to be a mobile office, not just luggage. Everything has a place. Everything stays protected. And when you get to where you're going, you're ready to work. Instead of digging through bags or repacking your life every time you move, Ramble keeps your setup organized and ready to deploy. Travel days stop being chaos and start being productive. It's sleek, modern, built for people whose work doesn't stop just because they're on the move. And if your job follows you, whether that's podcasting, teaching, consulting, or creating, Ramble is worth a look. Go to rambleofficeanywhere.com, all one word, rambleofficeanywhere.com. Use the promo code READ, R-E-A-D, and receive 5% off any product. It's exclusive for Reading with Your Kids listeners. Check it out today, rambleofficeanywhere.com, promo code READ. I am so very, very excited. Joining us right now from Southern Florida, our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you? Please welcome to the show, Christina Christian. Siwi. Hey, Christina, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you on. I love the title of your book, I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
great how it started. My eldest son, who's now 17, he just turned 17 Christmas Eve. He was about 2.5, and he was starting out in Pee Wee sports and starting to do things. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to build confidence in him, just as my parents had built confidence in me. And so I wrote this poem for him, which 14 years later, we, finished it. And I found a great illustrator and completed the book. But I've used the message with my eldest son and my 2 other kids. And I'm really hoping that it provides a way for other children to build a narrative of belief in themselves.
That is so very, very important. Just the idea that building up your kids' confidence in them to know that they can achieve amazing things.
I think it's super important. I look back at my life and a lot of the things that I've been able to do, why did I go for them, right? Why wasn't I afraid? And it really comes down to my parents always told me that if there was anything I wanted to do, I could do it as long as I worked hard for it and I believed in myself. So those 2 pillars are truly what has allowed me to take risks, have allowed me to go audition for American Idol, has allowed me to travel the world and not be afraid, or not succumb to fear. Because I think fear is natural and that's completely fine. But to have the confidence to push through anyway, I think is really what's needed for not only going after your dreams, but just living, daily life and going through the complex things that life provides to us. So yeah. That's my hope. I'm hoping truly that this book is able to impact other children like it has truly impacted my children. Yeah.
Now, it might have, just kind of crossed your ear, and it might have made your ear perk up when Christina said that she auditioned. She said, I auditioned for American Idol. She didn't tell you she was a top 10 finalist in the first season. So you did more than just audition. You really went for it. And after you got into the audition and listened to Simon say something nasty about you or other people, I'm sure, you were still able to go on and compete on that very huge stage.
Yes, very huge and very new stage, for the audience as well as for us, right? It was a brand new format. It was just so different in every, these are live shows in front of, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And regardless of how you felt that day, if you didn't have enough sleep, if your throat was hurting, if, you were sick, which I was during the show, you had to get up there and perform anyway, right? So there was a lot of lessons that we learned through Idol. It was a blast. The tour that we had afterwards was amazing, to live a dream of performing in arenas, around the country, 30 different arenas around the country, sold out arenas. That was amazing. To have the lifelong friendships that we have. It was really like a fraternity or a sorority thing, right? I feel like Idol was is how we rushed. That was us rushing. And it taught us all so much about ourselves, and truly what we're capable of, and really young. I was 21 years old. So it was really a new adventure that I grew so much from.
Yeah. How do we're living in a time right now where the country is really divided, and it seems like people can't have a discussion with each other. It's like, I'm on this team, you're on that team, and a lot of what kids are hearing these days is that life's unfair and this is against you, and there are lots of injustices and there are a lot of issues. But how do we recognize those and encourage kids to work to solve those while still being positive, understanding that, yep, that you're going to get bumps and scrapes and not everybody's going to be your fan, but you can still get out there and you can still do it and succeed?
I look back. I'm first generation American. Both my parents were immigrants. So I think that in and of itself, for what they taught me was there's always going to be people against you. There's always going to be tough situations. And you have to realize that they exist. Because like you said, injustices are real. That happens. It's going to happen to everybody, right? But you have to remember, and that comes back to my book, and that's where I got that message, was really from my parents. You have to believe that you can do something, that regardless of somebody getting in your face, regardless of somebody trying to stop you, that you have what it takes to succeed, and you have to put in the work. So I think it's just, I'm not necessarily a forever optimist, but I do look at the reality and I say, you know what? Things can happen in a good way. Things can happen in a bad way. And I choose to believe that they're going to happen in the good way. And if life knocks you down, which I've been in situations, I didn't win American Idol. I was sick during Idol, right? I failed on a large stage, but I was able to say, okay, that happened. Now, how do we get back up and keep going, right? And that, I think, is just because of the belief in self. Okay, I failed on that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to fail again, or it doesn't mean I'm going to fail at something else. And I think that comes down to the narrative of belief, and why I felt so strongly, especially during COVID, to finally put this out, because I saw it help my children, right? Like I know that it helped me, and I know that going through any struggle and to overcome any struggle, you need to have that belief in yourself, because there'll always be naysayers, right? There'll always be people, even sometimes in your close circle, that don't want you to succeed, but you have to believe that you will succeed in order for you to do it.
One of the things that occurred to me as you were speaking and talking about failing on American Idol, and the kind of thought that jumped into my head was, fail? There were thousands of people who auditioned for that show, and you got to number 10. You didn't hit number 1, and that's what you wanted, so you failed in that sense, but wow, you succeeded in so many other ways. How do we help our kids kind of see that no, we're not always going to hit the home run. We're not always going to, land in first place. But there's value in the struggle, and there's great value in coming in second or fifth or 10th or 100th, as long as we're out there trying.
And I think that's super important. For me, and I use the word fail because I don't think there's anything wrong with failing, right? I think you learn through failure, because my goal going into that competition was to win, right? So I might not have attained my goal, but as you said, like, I was able to perform on a large stage. I was able to make relationships with many different people. I was able to be, because I got sick and was rushed to the hospital at number 6, and that's when I had to stop doing the show. So I was still able to get that far. I was still able to get a contract. I was still able to do other things. So I might not have had, or attained the goal that I had coming in, but being able to look and see, like, oh, all these different things, all these different opportunities came out of that desire, that want, or that failure, right, of the first goal. I now have all these other doors that are now opened. And I think it's believing that, one door, like people hear it all the time, one door might close, but other doors open, right? And it's up to you whether or not you're going to go through those other doors.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Absolutely. One of the things in the podcast has been on, we're approaching our 6th anniversary in February. One of the themes that we talked about a lot when we first launched was that there are a lot of parents who are determined not to allow their kids to get any scrapes or bumps or bruises, and they kind of bubble wrap their kids. I don't see that as much now, but certainly when we say to our kids, I believe in you, we're also saying, I think, to our kids that I believe in you, and I know even if you fall down, you're going to be able to get up.
Yes. Because you're going to fall down. Like, if anybody can, that's inevitable, right? Like, we are not going to win at everything. We are not going to have an easy life always, right? Life is filled with ups and downs, and that is definitely something that we tell our kids. But you have to have the belief that you can get back up, right? And having that belief allows you to look for help. Having that belief allows you to look for different ways that you can continue moving on, right? Because it is hard raising children where you don't want to see them go through the same pains you did, right? And I look at my parents. I remember my dad was like, and he still said, you do better than I did, and your kids will do better than you did, right? But they still have to have challenges, because challenges teach us so much about ourselves. So I try, as much as it's hard, like it hurts to see your kids have a challenge. It hurts to see them fail or, not hit a goal. But I try my best, and my husband, we try our best to allow them to feel it. And once you feel it, you're able to then move on. Like, don't run away from that feeling. It's okay to not do well. It's okay for it to hurt. Right? But know that you don't have to sit in the hurt for a long time. You start building a plan and another vision to go on to your next adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that this book came out of a poem that you wrote for your son 17 or so years ago. And so I'm imagining when he heard this, when he was a youngster, that is, oh yeah, mommy, I believe in me, and get all enthusiastic. But I'm a dad of my kids are now adults, so I kind of went through that middle school phase with them. And were there ever times when you reminded your son that, hey, I believe in you? Do you believe in do you believe in yourself like I do? Did they ever came back to you like, yeah, I don't want to hear it anymore?
Oh, of course. I mean, they're kids, right? Like, that's going to happen. But then it's funny because, not funny, but my eldest son just took his SATs, and he had a score in mind. And I said to him, and he was freaking out, right? Like, I said, you have to believe in yourself that you can do it. Like, no one else can but you. Remember that. And he's like, and then the conversation, it was like a 30-minute conversation that had gone on beforehand. And he's coming up with every excuse on why it might not work. And I'm like, stop. You got to believe that you can do it. And then the conversation ended just like that. He just went quiet. And then 2 days later, he took the SAT. Well, 3 weeks later, when we got the results, he scored the exact score that he needed. And we talked about it again. So sometimes, like in other times of his life, you're not always going to win, right? But it's, you then go back to those moments and you say, if you didn't believe in yourself, right, in that moment, would that have happened? Probably not, right? You wouldn't have pushed yourself when you were stuck on a tough problem, right? You would have just given up. But it really comes down to that will, that narrative, when they can go back and replay that through tough times or tough situations, it helps them get a little bit further along.
Yeah. I'm curious, as somebody who's been on stage and entertained thousands, millions of people with your music, how is it different now that you're entertaining, inspiring thousands of kids with your books? You're not going to have that instant feedback from the audience cheering you on. Is it different? And how so?
Oh, it's completely different, right? Because again, like you just said, I'm not receiving the instant feedback. Although I love, like, I get pictures and texts from parents, and they'll send me. And I've seen my nephew. He starts reading it like, I believe I can jump so high, and he's doing it, and he's all excited. But it's believing that the message works, right? Believing that the message will impact, because I have to look back and like, okay, that message that my parents gave me, it worked for me, right? That message that I gave my kids through the poem originally when I wrote it, it worked for them, and it continues to work for them. So I believe that it's going to work for other kids, right? And I love, like, the whole reading with kids, because even thinking back, like, my husband was so, he would read with our kids every day. Like, our eldest son, every night they would read together, and how impactful that is, because that you're building that narrative. Whatever story you're providing to them, it soaks into their essence of who they are, and they take that with them. So not just this story, other stories, that they hear. So I think it's even more impactful, to be able to do that. And it is very similar. I will tell you, like, the book, the way it's written in song, because I write, I used to write music, and so it's very melodic when you're reading it. And I'm hoping that will always remain in the children's minds.
And I'm glad you brought that up. We do have a lot of authors and aspiring authors who listen to the show. And I guess one thing that I'm just like to remind authors is if you're writing a rhyming book, it should feel like a song and a melody. And if you're kind of shoehorning the rhymes in, it ain't working. Rework it. Make it sound like a song.
Yeah. Yes. That's how I write. And which is also nice because somebody had asked me, do you miss writing music? And I said, I do miss, putting a full song together, but I said, this is kind of like the same thing for me, right? Like finding that flow and finding that melody. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the question. Is this something not to replace writing music, but is this, a new chapter in your life? Have you, you've written, I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you? Is this the first of many children's books that are going to come from you?
So I do have a second one that right now I already wrote, and it's with my illustrator who illustrated my first book, who I absolutely adore. Her name's Ross Webb. I think she's from Ireland. She lives in Ireland right now. But I wrote my second book, and we're currently working on the illustrations, and it's about happiness. It's called Little Cub's Happiness Quest, and it's about what does happiness mean to each person, right? Each individual. And I think that's important because I think when you're younger, a lot of times in the media and, movies that we watch, you feel that happiness is X, Y, and Z, right? But that's not reality, right? Different things make different people happy. And so that's what in that book is what I'm trying to teach children. Like happiness might be to you is playing your video games. Another person might be happy, rolling around on the grass, and that's what gives them their joy. And not to dim anybody else's light, to find your own and have fun with what gives you and fills your soul.
Yeah. You were mentioning earlier on that you're tend to be very optimistic, and you believe in yourself, and you're giving this message out to kids, and you're writing a book about happiness. And you may be like me in that you annoy people with your enthusiasm and your positivity. I know I annoy my wife and my niece so much. But how do you think we can instill it? Because I think there's some people who are kind of born with, that kind of outlook on life, but I also think it's something that we can choose, to look at failure as an opportunity. We can choose to look at the glass as half full. And there's all sorts of studies that show that people who live gratefully are happier and healthier. How do you think we can help our kids kind of embrace that positive lifestyle?
By being an example of it. They might turn away from it for a period of time just because they're kids and like, oh, my parents do this, but they come back. I mean, I've seen it with my eldest son. Like he went through a period like from 11 to say 14. And then all of a sudden he was just like, you're right, Mom. And he just came back. And I think being that example, giving them that blueprint is most important.
I don't know if it's just an eldest son 11 to 14 thing, but it certainly happened here too. And I'm really happy I was optimistic because I knew it would end at some point. And,
that's what I have to keep telling myself. I'm like, this isn't going to last forever. So now moving on to my middle son, who is in that same time frame, I'm like, all right, well, your eldest, Caden came around. And I will say my eldest helps out so much too with our youngest in terms of like the way they think as well, to remind them like, yes, this actually works. What Mom and Dad are saying is actually true, and that's such a benefit as well because he believes the narrative, right? So now he's making sure that he's reconfirming to his younger brother and sister that it's accurate.
Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you shared a lot about your experience with American Idol, and it's become such a part of our culture here in the States and I guess around the world. You shared the struggles and the successes you had. Was there any funny, crazy story from that time that you can share with us? It's been 21 years. The statute of limitations has run on most crimes.
We had a really fun time when we were shooting, and we all ended up jumping in the pool with our clothes on. So that was a blast. 'Cause a lot of times we were like waking up really early to like do, TV and radio, and we didn't get to just chill and be ourselves. And, we just had this time where we were just like, we're going to, jump in the pool, and we did, and we just had fun. We used to eat at In-N-Out Burger a lot. Our season, we didn't have like the private chef or anything like that. I will say there was one time where we stood up for ourselves because they wanted to film us in the house, and all of us banded together and we're like, that's not happening. And so we shut that down. So that was neat. I'm trying to think of like anything that without,
breaking any confidence.
Yeah. So you have to think about that, or confidentiality or privacy. But no, those were some of our great moments. And tour was amazing. Like going on tour, we just had a blast. We really together had a blast. We just got together, actually. Kelly wasn't able to. She was dealing with some family stuff, but the 9 of us all did a show together on Justin Guarini's show a couple years ago during COVID, which was cool just to get together and talk about the things that went on and talk about where we are in our lives. And Jim, who was, I think he was 10th. He was 10th. He works with me at my company as a recruiter in tech. So I still get to talk to a lot of them. I haven't talked to Kelly in probably 2 or 3 years. I did something for her show. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. But Tamara and I are still very close. I've talked to Justin recently. Nikki, of course, passed away from our season, which was devastating. She way too young. But just talked to RJ and EJ and Ryan Starr and AJ. So it's been really nice to keep in contact and have that bond for all these years.
That's wonderful. Well, typically I would ask that, what kind of advice could you give to a parent who has a kid who aspires to be a professional singer, but I think you've already shared that with us, to give them, instill that confidence in them that they can do it, that you believe in them. And now the challenge is, do you believe in yourself?
Great. Yeah. That would be my advice for sure.
Yeah. I do that mind reading thing on stage in my magic show.
You got it. I really do hope, and I hope that parents really enjoy this book. The feedback I've gotten has been wonderful. There was a mom that said, I finally have what I need to have this conversation, to start this conversation with my kids. That, I didn't think about it as being a difficult conversation because I had the blueprint, right? My parents had that conversation, but I didn't realize how many people didn't know how to have the conversation with their children. So I really, I'm looking forward to seeing this impact lives, and I'd love for parents to definitely give me that feedback. They can give it to me on my Instagram. Even with the reviews of the book have been really good with feedback that way as well. And it's nice to know, I don't get the instant feedback for singing, but to get that feedback that it is helping, definitely makes me feel like what I did and what I put out, there was a reason behind it.
Yeah. And you mentioned Instagram, so let's tell everybody where they can connect with you.
Oh, so my Instagram is B_the_light21, Be the Light. And then if you want to purchase a copy of my book, you can get it on my website, which is www.ibelieveinmedou.com. And you can purchase the paperback and the hardcover. And you can also get the paperback on Amazon.
We've had a really fun and inspiring time speaking with the author of I Believe in Me, Do You Believe in You? Christina Christian Siwi. Christina, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile and gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and also subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. this was such a wonderful, wonderful episode. Please be sure to check out Alex Friedrich's Sweet Rescue. What a great picture book. Also, check out Christina Seawees. I Believe in Me. I hope you believe in you. I want to thank both of our guests for making today's show so wonderful. I also want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Santalara. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. I want to thank you for all the support that you give me. I want to thank you for taking the time to make the world a better, more empathetic and loving place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.